on the beat. It's a true foundation. I'm holding up the blood stain. I'm working on the beat. It's a true foundation. I'm holding up the blood stain. I'm working on the beat. It's a true foundation. I'm holding up the blood.
Welcome to the Under Construction Podcast. Join us as we discuss various topics meant to challenge your current ways of thinking. We have a great episode for you tonight, but before we get into that, let's introduce the crew. First, we have Cordell.
What up?
My guy KJ. And I'm T-Dub. Absent is AJ tonight, but he's in our hearts and minds tonight as he's dealing with some family issues.
Yeah.
My guy, blessings to you. Tonight's topic, how wins and losses affect character. What are our thoughts? See?
I think they both have, when we talk about wins and losses, I think they both have effects to our character. I think it depends on, though, what the win is and what the loss is.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? They're going to have some negative impacts. A win isn't always a positive thing, and a loss isn't always a negative thing. You know what I mean? So when I think of that and how it develops your character, that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely believe it's situational, depending on the occurrence, how the person responds to it, what their personal kind of mottos, beliefs, integrity are, definitely goes into how that would affect, those processes. Okay?
Yeah, I think wins and losses are revealing. They reveal where you are, and sometimes like you can think that you are further along than you in the person you hope to be, and like a loss can put that in check.
For sure.
And really make you like not be able to like operate within the facade of like not really imposter syndrome, but more or less fake it till you make it. Just trying to work on manifesting and being the person that you plan to be. Like you're like, nah, I'm gonna be this guy, so I'm living as if I'm already there, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then like something devastating can happen. You lose your job, or you lose a family member, or you know what I mean, or a loved one, and it's like, ooh, like now it's just like, okay, I have no strength to fake it. Like, where am I really at?
Yeah.
And, the inverse as far as wins, like sometimes you could think that your ego's in check enough to handle like all the things that you desire.
Right.
But then you see some people become like a little full of themselves when they get everything that they wanted.
Yeah.
That's what comes to my head at first.
Yeah, for sure. Personally, myself, the last few years, I've dealt with probably more losses than wins, although there have been good times when I think about the things that have changed my character the most for better or for worse, they've come through losses.
Yeah.
And understanding who I am as a person through a loss, understanding who your circle of individuals around you is during a loss can also be very, very impactful. It certainly was for me. And learning about your levels of resiliency, what your mettle is like, how you respond back to certain losses that happen, especially when you kind of put all your eggs in that basket, you know what I mean, and it doesn't end up the way you wanted it to. It definitely reveals a lot about yourself.
It's tough when we have victories and wins. We don't even most of the time really check about how we respond to it. Kind of like a character. Like if I'm winning, you ain't thinking about, you know what I mean, how you're emotionally feeling. You living on a cloud, kind of, you know what I mean? And you
riding a high.
But when that loss hits, like you feel everything like hits you, you know what I mean? But then there's times where people will be winning and they feel like they haven't achieved, like they finally made it to whatever that goal was, and they realize I'm still not fulfilled. You know what I mean? And that could build a character too. Like, was I even chasing the right thing. You know what I mean? And I achieved it, but I realized it's not even what it all panned out to be. You know?
I was thinking that football movie. I think Ice Cube was the coach.
Gridiron.
Okay, like
Yep.
was that with the kids when
No,
like
hold
they
on.
were?
That's a different one.
Was
I'm,
that
think,
Longest
I'm thinking about
Yard
the
or
one with the
something?
Rock and Exhibit. That's a different
Okay.
one. Okay, but I know which one
I
you're
don't
talking
remember
about.
the name of it, but I do remember all
that
the
when
kids celebrating.
When
the
Kiki Palmer was a quarterback? Was it a girl quarterback?
I know all
But
these
Ice Cube
movies
was
are
the
flushing
coach,
back
though, right?
there.
I don't,
Okay.
I, don't, I think
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
that one, but like,
Yep.
like either I don't remember the movie that well. I just
Yeah.
remember the scene when the kids was celebrating the touchdown, and he was like, "Yo, we're gonna act like we've been there before." Like you know what I mean. So when I think of character and wins and things like that, it's like just and like watching the playoffs and stuff. And they
Yeah.
talk about like the emotional maturity and like staying even keel of like through the ebbs and flows of things. Like and it's like like then I think of phrases like you win the battle, but like you could win the battle and lose the war. But it's like like don't get so wrapped up in the temporary win
Yeah.
that like you compromise your overall win.
Sure. That makes me think of a question. Have you ever seen someone compromise their values in the pursuit of a win, and what was the impact?
I mean, just growing up in the streets, right? We see.
Of course.
That's just an easy one. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, what we thought, the thing, first of all, those things that we were trying to achieve probably weren't wins at all.
Right.
Based on
wouldn't say that. I wouldn't even say that.
societal. Go ahead.
Because like cats be doing things like that, like it may be their path
Yep.
isn't the desired path.
Got you.
But cats did want to get their mama a house.
Right.
Cats did want to get
That's
a
a
nice
good point.
car. Cats has some regular stuff.
That's a good point.
Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like it's an ill way to pursue the American dream.
Yeah.
But they was trying to get
You right.
get better. You know what I mean? Like they
Yep,
made
yep.
even if they were destroying communities in the process, they still was trying to upbuild themselves and their people.
Yeah. And I think it also depends on where you are in your level of maturity, right? Because a win for me at 20 years old might not be a win for me at 40 years old. Of
course
not.
You know what I'm saying? I don't think they should be, right? But the things I was willing to do or the things I was willing to go about getting in a certain way in my 20s is vastly different than what I'm doing now. I have way more to lose at this point, right?
So much.
Your brain's still cooking in your 20s. You know what I mean? The jello hasn't hardened yet. You know what I'm saying?
Frontal
So
lobe is not
Yep.
developed.
right. So,
Another example I see is it happens in the church. Right? People get manipulated, get money. You know what I mean? And leaders will manipulate people for their own gain. You know what I mean? So that's another one where
Oh
you're
man, read the question.
you're
again,
compromising
92 seconds.
values. You know what I mean? Like that's wrong. You know what I mean? But those things that people do, it's sad
Yeah.
that people do it in the name of Jesus, but they do
Yeah.
it. They take advantage of people.
yeah. What about another aspect when it comes to the church? What about people that are so dead set on attaining a certain title that they're compromising what they're doing in order to be seen by others
Yep.
as I want to elevate from sister and brother X to
Missionary,
whatever level,
elder,
whatever
reverend,
those things
evangelist.
are, right?
Yeah.
You're not doing it because you want to give glory to God or because you want to serve, right? But you're doing it because you want to be seen and put on a pedestal
Yeah.
where you can,
I
be
think
seen
that's
in
actually-
elevated space.
That's a perfect example because what happens is your initial pursuit is to want to do this work. You know what I mean? Like you're like, yeah, I want to like I feel like I have the gift to speak or to be able to reach souls or to be able to help others, and then before you know it, like you're focused on your ego. And you're focused on it being you doing it.
Yep.
Sure.
And the credit of being the person that's doing the work. And, that goes back to something you said in earlier pods before about, like, the work being done through you. I don't know if you said it on the
Yeah.
pulpit or if you said it on the
Yeah,
pod.
probably.
But I do remember
Probably
you
both.
It's
saying,
one of my favorite things.
but I do remember you saying, like, like, you're blessed for the work to go through you. You're blessed to be the vessel.
Yep.
Yeah. And what's the impact of the flesh versus the spirit, right? Like we're all fighting that battle, right? Where we all live within the flesh, right? But we're trying to attain something different, right? Trying to be more Christ-like, but we still live in this flesh. So how do we kind of quote unquote kill the flesh or die to the flesh and live in more of a spiritual space when it comes to that specific type of an example?
It ain't easy. I think the only way that we kill the flesh, I mean, it's the word of God, and also accountability from others.
Right.
When you're just going and going and going, and no, this is why you have churches where there's leaders that no one is there to check them. Things can go out of control because everybody's scared and just want to be a yes man. But if nobody's there to challenge and check that person, you know what I mean? It's tough. So I think that's hard. That's why I think we always have to have a system where there's accountability, no matter who it is, you know. Because even if I'm getting out of control, y'all should be in a place where you be like, yo, this bro, you tweaking. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
And I think a person being drunk with power and an example like that is like a loss of self.
yep.
You know what I mean? Like so you could relate that to anything. You could relate that to relationships, friendships.
Yep.
You know what I mean? If the dynamics like really get like off centered that way,
Yeah.
like things just get a little weird. But I think another thing is like modesty. Like I mean, and I know like I've had conversations with Welch before about it. About he's not a fan of the word humble. And like someone like because the connotation of humbling someone down or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, I always countered it with like, okay, but I still appreciate modesty
Okay.
because that way, like you're like kind of like remaining even keeled, or like you know what I mean, like not getting too high on the win, not getting
Yep.
too low on the loss.
Right.
Because like like Chris was saying, like he said like we're not guaranteed a pain-free life.
Yeah.
And like we're guaranteed. I hate to say it, but we may be guaranteed more losses than wins. Mm-hmm. Like just depending on how life goes.
Yeah.
Right.
Some people have had a life full of losses.
Right.
Let's just be honest. You know what I mean? I think, another impact, going to the question, values and pursuing winning, what is the impact? I think sometimes when you're just focused on yourself and you are focused on winning, the impact could be hurting a lot of people too. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think that sometimes we get so focused on me that we miss opportunities where we can actually be helping other people win, right? And I think that's more of a win than just me winning by myself. I want other people to win too. I think it's better
Yeah.
when I'm on the mountaintop with my brothers. You know what I mean? Not just by
sure.
myself. So I think that's something to keep in mind too. It's like, yeah, I can win, but I should also be able to show somebody else how to win at the same time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, we talked. Oh, go ahead. Go.
No, I was just saying that, like, that goes back to the value of you saying like having accountability partners.
Yep.
Right. There's things that you can do well on your own, but there's something about bringing a collective along with you and having people not only to encourage you, to support you, to motivate you, but to also have you be accountable so that we all win. Right. There's nothing better than team sports to me. I'm a team sports guy. Right. And it's not about me just lifting my hand. It's about all of us
Yep.
feeling that pride and that joy
Yep.
together of the collective win versus the individual win.
So my counter to that is how do you deal with the times when everybody can't go?
You got to keep moving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's you want to go. I mean, it's an individual walk. As much as we want it to be a team effort, it's still an individual walk at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, you standing before God by yourself, right? You want other people to, you know what I'm saying? But
I get it in the spiritual sense.
Yeah.
Like that's
even in a natural sense.
But that's
I feel
why I
like.
said like if I put it in like a tangible sense.
Yeah.
Like say you and like a handful of your buddies have a business idea, and like you're gonna work on it together.
Yep.
But then like so and so slacking, and then so and so is like kind of they're with the profit, but they're not with the loss side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're not willing to equally be like, oh, we're in the mud together. You know what I mean? Like they don't want to get dirty
It's
with
tough.
you. Like how do you decide between said relationship versus like, okay, like I'm so locked into the goal that I'll continue to go forward, and whatever drops off, I'll just treat it like water rolling off my back and
Yeah,
keep pushing.
I think that's almost impossible, especially if you're invested in a relationship, right? Because it's gonna. I feel like let's say you drop off and I'm still going, it's gonna be a setback for me, Right, so you know what I mean. It's gonna be a setback for me because we were supposed to do it together. I might have needed your financial part of it. You know what I mean? And so now it's hard to separate emotions from business, and like all of that plays a factor into it. So
Absolutely.
it is not easy to deal with something like that.
That's why I asked, because I'm like, yo, like I've seen actually I was just having a conversation that kind of mirrors the sentiment of what we're talking about, but it wasn't in a business sense, it was more in a friendship sense.
Yep.
Okay.
And it was like you know, like someone not necessarily wanting to go somewhere with them, but then they went. And then like when you hear after they go, it's like, so you went without me? It's like, yo, I still wanted to go.
Yeah.
for sure.
Like, you know what I
for
mean?
sure.
So when I related to this business part of the convo, I'm like, but if you still went and I fell off, is it your should you have to carry the guilt of the fact that we all said we were gonna do a thing and you kept pushing?
Yeah.
Nah, man. I think people have to choose their level of investment and involvement. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? And it's tough. But just to challenge what C was saying a little bit, you know, it can be tough, right?
Yeah.
But I think emotional maturity helps you understand that not everyone is going to be able to travel the same road with you. And I'll take it to a gardening reference. Sometimes plants thrive when you prune them.
Yeah.
Right? So if we take that analogy and we say, hey, some relationships also need pruning, right? I want to grow, you know, I planted us all together, right? But if I find that there's something dying off, do I hold on to that and let that drag down the entire plant? Or do we say it might be time to prune this off, right? I'm
Yeah.
not killing the entire plant. I'm just taking something that's not thriving, it's not doing well, and I'm removing the piece that's not healthy, right? So before it poisons the entire plant. Right?
Right.
So there's different aspects, right? Like how much are you willing to sacrifice yourself for the greater good, right? And sometimes we have to make those difficult decisions. Right. And that's where the emotional maturity is, when it's like, okay, so each one of us are invested in this thing that we're doing, but you also have a family, I have a family, and you have a family, right? Can we be so invested in this where one of us isn't doing what we need to be doing that it's now affecting your family negatively? How long are you going to be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
And then you're going to have people in your world, in your family that you're accountable to, and now if those people love you the way that I hope they love you, and they're like, hey, what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not pulling your weight here because you're investing so much there. Like how is that fair? Right. So at some point we're gonna have to make some higher order thinking kind of choices about how we prune, how we have conversations. And it's not like necessarily pruning is the first thing we can do. We can try and amend the soil, right? We can have conversations, we can talk, but there's only so much talking, right? Like if we find out that, hey man, there's some disease on this plant, right? There's something that's just not working, and I've tried and I've had conversations, but it just doesn't seem to be working. It might be my last resort. But the last resort might be to prune in order to thrive later on.
Yeah.
Now, see, the beautiful thing about your example is like, if you take your example and relate it to so many different other versions, it changes our answer.
Yeah, for sure.
Because in business, makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
In gardening, it makes perfect sense. In health, if you were saying like, oh, remove the cancer from the body in order for you to be able to maintain, it makes perfect sense.
Sure.
But let's dial it back and go to family.
It's tough.
What if you had a family member that was cancerous to your overall family? How would you be able to?
Ooh, okay, so let's tap in. Let's tap in because I think the same thing applies.
Yeah, but it'd be so hard to do.
Yeah, definitely hard. But I think that's where the emotional maturity comes in, and also the surrounding yourself with the right people and the accountability partners, right? Because as I said, pruning isn't necessarily the first thing that we're going to do. Right? We're going to start to have some difficult conversations. Right, we're also gonna look for outside resources that can help us and say, hey, what are we doing? Right, we might need to go to counseling for that family member. Right, we might need to do an intervention for that family member. But at some point, if we've tried counseling, we've tried interventions, we've tried all of these modalities that are here to support and keep this unit together, if that's no longer effective, right, and it's not, again, we have to go back to the pruning not being the first the first course of action. Right, that's the least.
It's a necessary
Right.
course of action.
Absolutely,
It is.
It's not
right?
it's not a knee jerk reaction. It's not impulsive Not an impulsive choice. I like
and
that.
oftentimes it's evidence based, right? The evidence is
I tried
I've
this,
talked,
I
I've
tried
talked
that.
to this
I know.
person,
Yeah.
I've talked to this person, I've tried this, I've tried counseling. They don't want to show up, right? I'm spending my money, I'm utilizing my time and my resources, and they continually don't show up,
Yeah.
right? How many times can you show up for someone else before you're like, yo, there's no reciprocity here.
Yeah.
And it's not always that you have to have equal reciprocity, right? There's a number of ways to get to 100. It's not always 50-50,
Yep.
right?
100%.
But if I know that you're in a down place and all you can do is 30 and I can cover the 70,
We good.
we good, because I know you're trying and you're bringing to the table the best that
That's
you have
your 100.
available.
Yep,
That's
that's
your
your
You know what I'm
100%.
saying? And that means something to me, right?
Yeah,
Like the
100%.
emotional maturity. Some people will be like, nah, we said 50-50.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah,
that's not what it is. We have to look at the entire situation. So sometimes it's going to be 60-40. If that's what it is, and I know that you're doing your best
Yep.
to do the 60-40, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
I'm not going
always-
to be manipulated. I'm not going to be taken advantage of, because
Yeah.
it's only going to be so long, and then you're going to get the stone wall. And once I start putting these bricks and mortar together,
Yep.
boy, it's
in
going to be
place.
it's going to
I
be
think
it's tough
it's
to
in
tear that
place.
wall
It
down.
is. It is. It's
I'll-
tough with the family because, I've had a similar experience. I didn't totally cut a family member off, but it was one of those points where it's like, bro, I did all I can do for you
Yes.
and I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But what happened is it was the right thing to do because the cutting off is what helped them grow themselves. Then they came back later on and realized, bro, I'm
I
glad you
understand
did
why.
this.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so sometimes it's not for just our piece, but it's also they need to realize the bridges they've been burning. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the scary thing is, you have to.
But
like,
everybody can't process that.
I just think you have to accept not knowing which way it's going to go.
Yeah, you have to
because
accept it.
when you make that cut, they could be out there
Yes.
away from you and perish. They could pass
They could
away.
die, yeah.
And you'd have to reconcile that within self and not feel the guilt
Yes.
of being like, yo, I could, like, maybe I should have kept them
coulda-
closer and I could have saved them.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot.
One of my things
But
is
let's have another hard decision, a hard conversation though. Is it our responsibility to save others? Or is it your responsibility to save you? I can support, I can encourage, I can
Yes.
motivate, right? But is it my job to make sure you're alive?
one of my favorite sayings that when it comes to people, is people belong to God, not Cordell.
Say that for the folks in the back.
People belong to God, not Cordell. I can't save everybody.
Yeah.
That's God's job.
Yeah.
I'm here to help God.
Right.
Right? Whatever he needs me to do, I'm here to assist with it.
Mm-hmm.
But so I have peace. Like sometimes so in church, we want to be able to help everybody. We ain't see this brother in 10 years. You know what I mean? Like we
Mm-hmm.
want to be able to help everybody. But the reality is we can't.
Right.
And people belong to God. You can't
Yeah.
control people to live the way they want to live.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, they got to deal with God. And that's one of the things that gives me peace.
Right.
Knowing that, hey, I did what I can do, but I pray for them. They belong to God.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? That's
and I'll give you guys an example of that as well, right? I came to church one Sunday. That Sunday I popped up after work, right? Like I left work and I was able to make it to service. Chris introduced me to a brother who was going through some struggles. We exchanged numbers. We had a few conversations. We started texting, and you know me, I'm very blunt when it comes to like people's health care
Yep,
and
sure.
things of that. So I gave him some hard truths.
Yeah.
Right. You know, maybe some things that people that might have been closer to him might not have been able to discuss with him
Yep.
because you know what I mean, there's that relationship and you don't want to step on toes. But right, like this is someone that I'm just meeting. You're telling me that you're struggling, so I have to take the blinders off, right? Like you're in this space, right? And you're like, hey, my relationship isn't doing well. I'm at a loss. I feel like I'm gonna lose everything. And now I want to do this sort of thing. Are you doing this because you want to get better and you want to understand the decision, or are you doing this to get someone back, right? Because if I'm doing this to keep C close to me, that's only going to be short-lived, right? Because I'm going to know that I'm doing it just to keep you close, not because I want to change as a person
And as soon
and keep
as
you
you
close
fix
because
that-
I've improved myself, and now you're able to see that in the change in my actions and my behaviors. So as I started to say some of these things, this brother got kind of quiet, and then he just kind of ghosted me, right?
Okay.
So I'm like, hey,
He ain't ready.
reach back out. Hey, brother, you know what I'm saying? Praying for you. I hope that you get whatever it is you need to get.
Yep.
Right? Because you in a place where you need to heal. You need to figure out some things. He said, thank you. That's it. But at least he responded. Couple
Yeah.
more weeks go by. Hey, brother, thinking about you, praying for you. Hope things are going well. I'm here as a resource if you need me.
Yep.
Haven't heard from him since. Is it now my responsibility to continue to try and save this man? To continue to be like, hey, Chris,
door's open.
You remember this? Hey, he's
Yeah.
got my number. You know, the phone rings both ways.
Yes,
the
that's one of
text
my
messages
favorite
get
things.
sent both ways, right? I've extended my hand, but I've said things that you probably don't want to hear, right?
Yep.
And that's the challenge, right? Because in order to get people to grow, there has to be a level of discomfort.
Yeah.
Right? I'm gonna wear a size 6 shoe as long as my foot don't hurt,
Yep.
right? But as soon as it gets uncomfortable, hey man, this shoe isn't good for me anymore. I need something different, right? So in order to get to that place of growth, sometimes we have to be uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and
Resistance.
oftentimes it's gonna hurt, right?
It's tough, man, because there was it made me think of an instance in the Bible where this man, Paul was writing a letter, I think it was Corinthians, but the man was sleeping with his father's wife in the church. So it could have been a stepmother or his mom, who knows, you know what I mean? But anyway, but the thing is, Paul was like, y'all go up to him, confront him. If he don't stop, kick him out. Kick him out of the church. And then he said, so that when he's out, let Satan deal with him. So that when he's out there, he might come running back and we welcome him with open arms. Sometimes we have to let people fall flat on their face
Yeah.
because they belong to God at the end of the day, like I said. And if they fall flat on their face, hopefully they know where to turn to. You know what I
Right,
mean? So,
right.
and hopefully they're turned to a place, they have that door open. Us as the church, we can receive them back and help restore them. You know what I mean? But you can't help nobody that don't want it.
And then too, like understanding it's not personal. It's not a me thing. He didn't reject me as a person,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm just a vessel, right? Like Chris connected us because he thought that I had something that
Yep.
he might need, right? So I just allowed God to use me and to say, you know, whatever I felt like might be able to help him, right? So that wasn't me personally. I didn't take the fact that he cut me off personally, right? Whatever I said to him, I said from a good place. I said with a genuine heart, and I was hoping that it was gonna challenge him, but also help him. Right. And I think that's a part of the gift that God's given me to get to the meat and the potatoes of the thing. Right. Like I can't eat potato chips all the time. There's no value in it. Right. Yeah.
Right.
It's good to have Twinkies. I used to love them when I was a kid, but there's no nutritional value right there.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to give somebody something with substance.
got it.
Right. And not knowing where he came from. Right, we don't know who's feeding him or if those things have any nutrients or any value for him. Right? So sometimes you put broccoli on a child's plate and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to eat the trees. Not too many green things." Right? But we know that we give that to them so that they'll have something that will nourish them for the long run. Right? And they'll get some nutrition out of that. Right? Because hot dogs ain't gonna do nothing. You know what I'm
go
saying?
so
Like,
far with those.
you know what I'm saying? Like all beef, pork, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like it's still a hot dog.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like
a fact.
sometimes you have to do something that's uncommon for the individual to push them into success. And if they're not really ready for that, it's not really on us. You know, so for me, I didn't take it personally.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's good.
Some people could take it personally and be like, "Oh, what did I do?" And that's where you go into
Nah.
the flesh, into the ego,
Yep.
right?
You take
Because
it
like,
personally.
"Oh, he rejected me, and what should I have done, and what could I have said?" I said what God gave me to say to him.
Yeah.
And however he received it,
Yep.
he received it. But I know that I did it with a genuine heart, without any malice, and I didn't do anything that I thought would hurt him.
That's big.
You know what I'm
you said
saying?
a lot
So-
about your intent. Your intent wasn't negative.
Yeah,
So you can't really control how they receive.
yeah, for sure.
I mean, I think
You know, another thing I think about too is your time is valuable.
That's our most valuable resource, in my opinion.
Yeah,
right? I
get
can
it
get a
back.
lot. I can get a lot of things
Yes.
back, but time isn't one of them.
Your time is valuable. So I think we have to be selective with who we give that time to. You know what I mean? Like I said, we want to help people because that's just how God created us. You know, we want to help people and we want the best for people. But when it comes to, as you talked about, family or anybody, but if it's affecting you and your family, right? That's your first responsibility. Is yours. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's
Yeah.
like, bro, I want to help you, but you affected my peace.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, you might have to let him go. You know?
as difficult as that may be. And it's going to be a challenge, right? Just in the same way that hearing or receiving that message from us when it's difficult is a challenge for them, being able to release them is going to be difficult for them as well.
Yep.
Great conversation, fellas. I love where it was going. I think we're going to leave it here for now. We're going to get back to it maybe in our next conversation, and we'll continue to build on it. But as always, keep building.
Amen.
I'm working on the bill.